I want to say thank you so much for doing a wonderful session, man. That rocked.
Thank you.
You really did
Appreciate
a good job.
it.
No,
Thank you so much.
As you were thinking about preparing this workshop, what was your what were you hoping to kind of get across to folks?
Thank you. When I prepare the workshop and when I've done it before, is my biggest intention is making sure people understand the empathetic piece to what this addiction and this living with it. Sometimes I even question calling it an addiction. I'm trying to really compel people to understand what it's like to be in someone else's shoes, walk a mile in their shoes, understand what it's like. And so when I put on my teacher cap and educator cap, I want to really engage people in what it feels like. And so all the way down from the beginning to the end, walking in this issue, this circumstance, this idea.
So Ryan, can you, for the folks who didn't make it to the session, can you tell them just a little bit about you and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. So right now I'm a practicing therapist in private practice in Uptown. I work with what is sexual trauma, sexual healing, and in particularly right now I'm working with people that are struggling with the identification of pornography, where it lives, where it sits in their life. I'm a PhD student with a life work around pornography, around spirituality, around the convoluted nature of what comes up for them.
Okay.
And so I spend a lot of times healing, and that's why the nature of my business is trying to connect with them.
Okay. Now, I thought it was, I found it very interesting that when you talked about this idea of pornography, that you said that people who are addicted, and that goes for male or female, transgender, I mean, however people want to identify themselves, or the labels that we use for folks, you said that they were looking for wholeness. Explain that. How can people be looking for wholeness through pornography?
Thank you. And this is the paramount, really convoluted, murky, whatever metaphor we want to use. When I speak of the word wholeness, I'm talking about the identification of a connection to oneself. And so if I could beg you to think of maybe a gas gauge or a pie chart, is there's a piece of us that we're unwilling to access, be it consciously, be it unconsciously. And when I speak of wholeness, I'm really contributing my theory, my thoughts, and everything that I've learned through my teachers as an understanding of connecting through one's authenticity. So if you can be authentic, you can be closer to whole. Be it Adlerian lifestyle, be it any kind of Jungian version of transcendental behaviors, it's beyond the spectrum of connecting with oneself.
Wow. And I even thinking about myself, right? The person that I have the most difficulties being authentic with is me.
No doubt, right?
Right.
And then you look in the mirror, right? And Andre, what I really see, and what a lot of my work gives me so many goosebumps, is when someone sees that and they have that aha moment where they look at themselves and they say, oh my goodness, I've got it.
Yeah. Now, I did find it interesting. I also found it interesting when you were talking about men who would describe themselves as being straight, you know, using that term, whatever that means, right?
In the gender fluidity nature.
But finding themselves watching either transgender sexual porn or lesbian or even gay male porn, and saying that they think they might be drawn to, they might be either gay or they might be transgender, when you question them, they're not sure about that. So how does the straight male see these things and then become? So does that mean that they are?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. And that's where the reason many people will come into my office and many people will seek out questioning and consultation is they've caught themselves at what I would consider the apex of their porn addiction, and things are starting to crumble around them. And one of the apexes that's described as, oh my gosh, my pornography has gotten more intense, it's gotten more graphic, and now my sexual desires, are they equal to or parallel to what I really am acting out sexually, okay, physically now, not just emotionally and what I'm thinking. And what I talk to them a lot about is it's not about their graphic desires and what they're fantasizing about, and by fantasizing, that's their script, that's their identification of their sexuality. What I'm talking about is if you're in life acting that way, is that what you really are authentically seeking for wholeness? So see how those two tie in?
Yeah.
And it's important, and it's really resonates when people go, okay, because then that decompression of, wow, I'm not gay, and even if they were, that could be somewhere where I say you're seeking wholeness.
Right.
So see, the opposite side of the coin is pornography could be a way for someone to sit in their house and explore something sexually that they might be easier compelled to access through the internet, as opposed to, you know, going out to a bar or socially connecting with human beings.
So it becomes problematic greatly in its secrecy, right? So so keeping secrets, hiding, being full of shame for having or being participatory in those things, that becomes the problematic part.
It is problematic because there's no connection, and so there's no I don't want to say, for lack of better words, there's no mind-body connection. So their mind and what they're seeking and what they're fantasizing about and what they're drawn to might not be what their physical body's asking for.
Okay.
They're still trying to process, could be possible, like I alluded to when I talk to people, the little t, the big T in traumas. That's a very catchphrase now, but it's very specific. If they are looking for some sort of pornography, it could be monumental in what has happened in their life or what they're searching for in the future.
Okay. There was one other thing that you mentioned in your workshop that really caught my attention, which goes back to this idea of that it's not the bodies that I'm seeing on the screen, that it compels me to continue to watch. Can you say that again in a concise way?
Yeah. So what happens is people are looking for it, and they start to become triggered through the ritual. So it's no different than a heroin addict or different than someone that's substance abusing alcohol or meth. It becomes the ritual. So it's the journey that everything around it becomes that soothes and pretty much secures. I talk a lot about secure base. And what they're doing is they're finding a security, a safety within this pornography that they really want to access. And so when I say it's not about the bodies on the screen, it's not about the images, it really isn't. It's about the intensity that maybe the images are drawing, but that's excluded. And the reason why I say it's excluded is it's because it's the action. It's the ritualistic action that's being kind of triggered in the brain. And then we start going into neurochemistry and really the neurological system.
Okay. Now, one of the things, so I do some domestic violence work and have done some men's groups and working with men. And one of the things that I was actually surprised to find was that back in the 90s, Britney Spears had a song, "Hit Me Baby One More Time."
I can remember.
And I was actually surprised to find that the music video was full of all of these sexual kinds of tongue-in-cheek kind of trying to play the line or blur the lines in some respect. And in doing my research, I found that the actual producer of that video was a porn producer out of San Francisco. Right? So earlier you talked about there is this deep need to push or blur the lines, particularly around this pornography piece, and there's some folks who've gotten in trouble in the news for their discretion or lack thereof, right? And so what do you think it is that pushes us? I mean, is it simply capitalism. I mean, is it that simple, or is there something more that's developing as these boundaries get pushed, particularly in Western society?
Yeah.
Because we know in Europe,
Yep.
you know, the way they look at sexuality, the way they talk about it is totally different than how we do here in the West.
To kind of extrapolate from that question, where I go and my personal feeling is, I think, and it's not solely this, but it becomes overconsumed. The sexuality of our culture, it becomes kind of just a necessity to connect with people. And part of my theory and what my hope is people start recognizing that there's a need for emotional connection. And so when we're seeing sexuality blatantly displayed all over the world, be it, you know, guys like Hugh Grant, you know, in the news with prostitution or whatever, there's an emphasis on their desire to seek physical contact. Okay? And what that also is that's the porn. That's the porn that people are doing, and we're conditioned, no different than what B.F. Skinner says. We're conditioned like little rats in the cage. And I think it bypasses just capitalism. I think capitalism is a huge, they realized it, they found out, that's why the porn industry is making billions and billions of dollars. But what is so kind of tightly underground is the physical reactions our body just asks for, be it dopamine, be it any kind of just knee-jerk reaction of ecstasy.
So you know, because I can be pretty dogmatic, right?
Yeah.
I'm very opinionated,
and that's why I love it.
I see the world in a particular kind of way. But I think that I appreciated this conversation that we had because I think sometimes the moral imperative gets in the way of actually being able to talk about what happens to people. And so I really appreciate your work. I support your work.
Thank you.
And you guys should support this guy as well. He's an up-and-coming rising star in terms of helping people connect to their wholeness. And so, Ryan, it was a pleasure to have you today, man. And
thank you.
Yeah, look for all the great things that you'll be doing with us. So,
thank you so much.
All right, man. Have
Appreciate
a good day.
it. You too.